Well, Kyle?
Yes, Garrett.
We haven't done one of these in a while. Feels like, I did this joke last time. I'm not going to do that. Feels like something's missing.
We forgot something?
Yeah. Kyle, I miss Stormblood.
There were amazing dungeons in Stormblood.
There were, and we haven't talked about the optional dungeons yet, which means...
If people would unlock them, I never get to see these fabulous dungeons.
Do your blue quests!
They have currents on them. They've got cool your roulettes will be happy because of them, unless people, of course, cheat with their gear, which is, on those horrible individuals. This is a gauntlet of fabulous dungeons we're going to talk about today. I don't think we've had a list that is going to be so nitpicky to divide up. Luckily, we have our sweet deciding system.
Yes, our 3-point system, it's infallible, so every dungeon we place on this wall is factually correct, and there is no arguing with it. When we look at a dungeon, we look at the music, we look at the vibes, and we look at the bosses.
And let's dive right in.
Dive right into the Shisui of the Violet Tides. I see what you did there.
A little fishy for you.
Oh!
Is that joke getting old? It works.
Old?
Yeah, you gotta think about it a little bit. Yeah, because the old boss.
Because the second boss, the Ruby Princess, you can't get seduced if you're old. Yep. Yep. That's not. Listen, as an old person, that's not true.
Yeah, I'm getting older, and I don't think that's the case.
Really, my brain hasn't changed much. Still 14 years old up there. Our first of many Eastern architecture underwater dungeons. There's a surprising amount of that going on in the Stormblood optional dungeons.
Yeah, Ruby Sea, we're in the Ruby Sea.
Literally, like in it.
This wasn't far off the beaten path. You could easily enjoy this while leveling, and I think it'd add to your experience in doing so.
Yeah, it points you at it pretty directly. You end up in the small town where you pick this quest up. I really like this dungeon. But I'm going to say that a lot today, so I'm going to need to get a little more specific. Let's start with the music, which the track is called The Open Box. And like a lot of Stormblood music, there's a lot of traditional Chinese instruments to be found in this track.
Chinese?
I am not an architectural savant, but anytime I see the corners of the roofs point up in a horned fashion, I assume it's Chinese because Japanese architecture tends to be a little more naturalistic and just kind of end at the corners. To me, and let me know in the comments below, because again, I'm not an expert on the difference between Chinese and Japanese culture and architecture and all that kind of stuff. To me, Kugane seemed like Japan, and everything to the west seemed like mainland China.
I got that vibe as well.
Yeah, and this would be over on the mainland. And there's also a lot of similarities between traditional instruments as well, especially if you're like us, you're kind of laymen's and not experts in this stuff. But I'm pretty sure what I'm picking up in this is a Chinese violin, and I think it's called a gucheng, which is like a Chinese version of a zither, which are those like tabletop stringed instruments that you play with your fingers.
I think the Violet Tides song is kind of boring, but it gives you that mystical underwater feel. But when it gets to what I think you're calling the violin there, that main verse it does is very cool and very otherworldly.
Yeah. Usually what I'm looking for in music is can I hum it is a question I always ask myself when we're coming to one of these conversations. And I think I can hum Violet Tides, but more importantly, because it's Violet Tides, I want to know, could I scuba dive to it? And the answer is yes, I could definitely scuba dive to this music.
I think Violet Tides gets some free points because it's an underwater level that doesn't suck. Like there are floating fish and we're in a bubble, but it'd be more frustrating to do like a swimming thing and be combating on different levels while swimming. I've done it a lot in World of Warcraft. I don't like fighting while swimming. Even if you upgrade swimming, if you give me the run underwater, which was neat.
No, just let us play Blitzball.
Blitzball. Yeah, no, I don't want to do 3-dimensional swimming. It's okay for like an occasional like lift phase. Or, your world is upside down. Kael'thas business.
And matter of fact, to talk about bosses, I like it when it's the boss has to worry about it and I don't. Because the final boss here, Shisui Yohi, does that mechanic where the ground turns in the water, which is a really nice and well executed effect, and then descends into it. And we need to, it's essentially a burrow attack. Like, I always think of an Uberak from World of Warcraft, because to me, that's like the quintessential worry about things under my feet fight. It's a trope in MMO boss fights that I love, and this is a really nice spin on that trope in my mind.
Cutter's Cry, yeah, it's a pretty common boss augment to give them, and it works perfectly here.
Yes, and don't compare this to Cutter's Cry. They are not even in the same city, let alone the same ballpark.
It's a beautiful dungeon. Final Fantasy XIV is so good at changing its palette out, as well as letting you go at least on some sort of visual journey over the course of it. Very rarely do you start and end in the same place in a Final Fantasy dungeon, and this is more in the middle bit, and I really like that. Kind of that Holminster Switch effect, where your middle boss feels like it should be the end boss, and then there's a bonus end boss, even though there's always 3 bosses.
Yeah, the Ruby Princess does really stick out of my mind because the box mechanic that turns you into an old lady, it really stuck with me for some reason. Also, the Ruby Princess boss model is pretty cool looking, pretty memorable, pretty. But yeah, to get to the vibes, yeah, I like the look of this place. It's good. It is up against a lot of other underwater themes, though, so it needs to stand out. I think this is one of the better ones. I love the beginning of it when you're down and it's like parted coral, and you're walking up this hill that's also a coral reef, and you see the palace in the distance. Like, it is so quintessentially fantasy. It's something you would never expect to see in the real world, and so I love the mix because both parts of that, the coral reef and the palace, it's very realistic. It's a very realistic depiction of a coral reef. It's a very realistic depiction of like a Chinese-looking palace. But you just slammed them both together and you've parted the ocean. It's just wild to look at. I love it. I really like that part of it. Once you start moving through it, I think it a little bit vibe-wise drops off. It's like, yeah, I've seen interiors before. I do love sliding paper doors.
Kugane Castle does it so well. That's the problem.
Overall, I think this is just a really solid dungeon with pretty good bosses. But to me, it shares a lot of similarities with Kugane Castle, and maybe I'm scooping myself a bit here, but I think when I compare the two in my mind, I have to give Violet Tides grindable. I think it's just solid. I really like that opening bit, like looking at the palace and the coral, but that kind of just drops off once you go inside. We go back outside afterwards, but it's more like naturalistic trees and stuff, so it kind of just looks like you're in a normal garden that would make sense for the palace, and they don't play up the mixture of the two as much, except for the boss mechanics brings that in.
I was impressed by the scorpion. It actually got knocked over, the first boss.
I guess you're a big PS3 launch fan. You're a big fan of giant enemy crabs that you can knock on their back for massive damage.
I do. When enemies are a little more interactable visually, rather than just maybe even just falling down or just being stunned, I think that's cute. I was a little disappointed, even though they put a lady on it. The final boss was a reskin, and a very clear reskin of the Void Ark vomiting boss.
I'll fight you on that though. Even though I'm fighting for grindable here. I like the final boss model quite a bit because I think they changed it a lot, and the way it looks like a lady in like royal regalia with octopus legs makes it look very different from the vomiting boss from Void Ark. Also, fellow StarCraft fan, kind of looks like a Zerg queen became an actual queen and got some like cool threads.
Yeah, I think what I'm getting at is I agree with you on grindable, but perhaps for different reasons.
Okay. All right, cool. So you said your piece. All right. Throw it in grindable, Kyle. Make it so.
Well, hang on now. Because I remember I fought hard for the Drowned City to be at the top of grindable. You want to put it on top of that?
It's not even close. Yeah. Get Drowned City out of here.
All right.
To me, Drowned City could be cooler. So it is there strictly because I like you.
Okay. Okay, that's fair. Maybe we'll make an example of it later. We like too much of Stormblood. It's getting weird.
I really like Stormblood, and the deeper I get into Shadowbringers, I'm surprised by how much I still like Stormblood.
Yeah.
It's I'm going on a journey. I might end my MSQ journey being an antithetical jerk that always is like, Stormblood deserves more praise, because that's how I'm feeling right now. Let's go ahead and talk about Kugane Castle.
Full of ninjas.
The track here is incredible. It's called Deception. It is a traditional Japanese arrangement of Triumph, which is the Stormblood battle music, which is awesome. And I already love Triumph. Triumph is probably my favorite battle music of any expansion so far, and I include Shadowbringers in that. I really like Triumph. And so just having a bunch of traditional Japanese instruments play the arrangement of Triumph just makes this maybe my favorite music in everything we're about to talk about today.
This is one of the most dynamic dungeons that they've made in a very silly way. Like ninjas hiding in the moats, jumping out at you. The floor panels being flipped around on boss number 2. Like, what a cool soundtrack. What a cool way to do a castle.
Yeah. It's a castle full of ninjas. We're millennials that were on the ground floor when anime broke through to the States. Like, what is not to love about a Japanese AF dungeon? I really just, it's a castle full of ninjas. It's awesome. Like, it's just cool. Ninjas will never stop being cool. You drop in, there's bamboo shoots, and you're in a courtyard fighting suits of armor. I said I liked sliding paper doors and Shisui. Let's do it again, but now ninjas are fighting me. I will always like fighting ninjas. If there's one thing about the vibes of Kugane Castle, I want to bring it up just because of how we tend to look at things. Like, it has, I think, maybe a little less visual progression than Violet Tides. Whereas this, once you go inside, you just stay there for basically the rest of the dungeon. However, I really like the inside of where we are. I really like the theming, and I love that you end up fighting this, Jimbo mercenary at the end. That also shows up out of a trapdoor elevator thing, which makes it instantly cool.
Well, and Yojimbo sent me on a trip because he was my favorite summon in Final Fantasy X. But I didn't remember him at all until he raised up in that moment. I went, whoa, who the hell is that? I've seen that before. Where's this coming from? Ancient memory.
I'm really glad that you and I both have very few outside of 14 Final Fantasy touchstones and that we just keep coming back to 10.
Yeah, it's all we got. Blitzball, kill your dad,
I was there for goth girls and anime summons.
Oh, and the guy with the sunglasses who was just like the coolest thing on the planet.
Auron?
Yeah, Auron,
the
big sword.
To me,
with his one arm hanging out of the robe.
I didn't grow up with 7, dude. I didn't grow up with 7. So to me, Auron is like the quintessentially cool video game character.
I always find the crossover of villainous technology interesting. Like, if you're a samurai, you probably don't use, at least if you're a good aligned samurai, you probably don't use guns or bombs. So our first boss here, bringing out the bombs, I was kind of like, oh, you're evil. Second boss, you fight Genji and his many clansmen.
Dude, Jujun Maru looks so much cooler than Genji.
He's real. I love that floor effect, the AoEs that are flipping the tiles. That is so cool.
It is really, really neat. Like, the way Final Fantasy XIV finds new and inventive ways to visualize ground attacks. Like every other MMO I play, it's just like glowy shit. It's fire or energy. Of course, cool. Never seen that before. And here it's, you walk in and you're just like, okay, grid-based floor, probably to give me a sense of spacing to avoid something. It's like, nope, the floor is a mechanic deal. And that's just great. It keeps finding ways to surprise me. And this is a great example of that.
And Yojimbo finishing it off with his piles of gold and his dog. And you can go enjoy him at the Golden Saucer. They kind of they combined Yojimbo with that flying tiger dude from Ivalice and made a event out of it. You can do it, the Golden Saucer.
Okay, I didn't know. I still haven't really messed with the Golden Saucer. We should have a Golden Saucer day where you show me around.
I'll show you around. But you're right. The big knock against this seems to be the set piece. Just, we're moving through these rooms, and room after room, I really like I said, the bridge and the moat and the ninjas coming out of the water, but it doesn't really tonally advance.
No, it doesn't. But like I said in the beginning, I happen to love this aesthetic. It reminds me of the dojo level in all of the old side-scrolling Ninja Turtle games. Yeah. I just like paper walls, sliding paper doors, dojo floors, fighting ninjas, fighting martial arts masters. Like, this is stuff that was really surface level, paper thin things that I enjoyed as a child that are still here as an adult, but much more filled out. And so I absolutely love this. This is like one of my favorite video game levels turned up to absolute 11 in the year 2023. On that reason alone, I would start the bidding at banger, because this checks so many aesthetic boxes for me, and the fights are good, and the music. I said I might be my favorite track we're going to talk about today.
It's a really fun song. I was going to go top of Grindable, so I am more than happy to meet you halfway at the bottom of Banger.
We got Siren Song C at the bottom. I'm okay with that. I really like Siren Song C, and it's super unique. So yeah, let's do it.
Awesome.
Let's do it. Bottom of Banger. That's the thing, right? I gotta stop and consider the things that are already on the board.
We got a tough block of MSQ here. That's going to be a little hard to get over. And at the end, Doma Castle.
I don't know if you read our comments, but some people still aren't over where we put Gamelot Dark.
What, in Banger?
Yeah.
What's wrong with it?
People think it should be higher.
But the burn is beautiful.
It is.
And the Gamelot Dark is dark.
On to the Temple of the Fist.
Temple of the Fist. Looming over Rauger's Reach.
Yeah, let's start with the vibes on this one, because I think it's a very strong vibe dungeon. I will be honest, I haven't thought much about this since, but it's because I don't think anyone else has unlocked it, and I haven't seen it since we ran it.
It's a really fun dungeon, and you want to go there. Like, when you're in Rauger's Reach, you're like, what's in this area? Can I explore it more thoroughly? Instead, they just sort of force you out the door into Alamigo land, which isn't quite as interesting as Rauger's Reach sort of builds up. The Temple of the Fist is what I wanted to see out of Rauger's Reach, and I got that. Now, there are oddities in it, like the moss walls. You gotta divide things up. You know, this is the modern design to make sure people aren't over-pulling, getting people through the dungeon in a good amount of time. And then the traps that are really cool, like pushing you, and they don't actually push you off. They won't kill you if they push you off. Just kind of knocks you. Just set dressing.
I forgot about that. I remember that there were traps, but I didn't remember how they worked, and that is a bit of a bummer.
They weren't deadly, and I get it, right? We want to get people through. You got 25 minutes max. Like, let's complete your daily.
When we first got here, we walk out, and you realize that you're above Rauger's Reach, and you see the head of that giant statue that we've been standing under the whole time, but you look down, and it's just cascading mist and fog. Like, I love the way the beginning of this dungeon looks. It is so cool looking. And it just keeps getting cooler, because then after, what's the second boss? Arboretum, with like the purple smoke billowing out of the temple, like it's, I don't know, the end of Ghostbusters. And then you walk in and you don't get hit by a load screen, so you actually get to just walk in and see the transition from the outdoor boss arena into this interior that's purple, spooky, and glowing. This is such a good looking dungeon. This is like, I think, I never hear anyone say shit about Temple of the Fist. I think it is criminally underrated.
I think the first boss, you know, 2 cats, 2 corals.
It's 2 corals.
Not terribly interesting.
No, I do like their jump and avoid mechanics though, because it's happening simultaneously, and one does like more of a circle and the other one does more of a cone. And so at least in that degree, it's a little more interesting, but it is still 2 corals. You're absolutely right.
Second boss, I like the idea of a 4-armed statue defending a sentinel.
I like Goro, so I like this boss.
Stormblood back at it, man. Port and star directional attacks, fore and aft directional attacks. It ain't right.
Also, as a tank, you could do right and left, and I still need to think about their right and their left.
Yeah!
So could we just simplify this, please? Because my brain can't take it.
But it does climax in those purple flames, the ghost monk you have to fight with his chakra orbs flying around, the dragon heads. It's just very busy, but it's such a big shift after climbing the mountain. I did like that part.
I liked basically this whole dungeon. The moss is mildly annoying, and the traps are mildly disappointing, but if they work the way we want them to, then they cross over into annoying territory for repeat runs.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like Arboretum. I love Curl Fist at the end. I think that fight rules. Also, one of the just coolest looking boss fights in a dungeon. The effort that went into this. This feels like it should be a raid fight.
I kind of want to rank it higher just so people go unlock it so I can play it more.
I like this so much. I was like, my head, I was originally thinking epic, and then I looked at it, I'm like, well, if the burn didn't make epic, Temple of the Fist doesn't make epic, but I really like Temple of the Fist.
Curl Fist had a lot of instantly readable mechanics that were fun to interact with. So I vote for right above Siren Song C, below Alamigo. Do I like it better than Alamigo?
I think I might like it better than Alamigo.
But that ends with Xenos.
Oh, that's true. That's
yeah, fight.
You can't. Yeah, Xenos. All right.
Yeah, Xenos. Okay.
I like it.
Make some room.
Bang it into the banger.
Perfect.
Now we move down into Hell's Lid,
which we talked about a little bit in our Auspice video.
Let's start with the music on this one. It's called Down Where Demons Dwell. This is the first one where I'm just like, it's, nothing against it, but it doesn't really stick with me. This is that point where I ask myself, is it hummable? And my answer is absolutely not. I cannot remember a melody from this track.
I agree completely. It's just kind of danger music. It's generic danger. There's danger afoot. What kind of danger? Demons. Here we make our way through some awesome sets. Okay, help me out here. Lava is above ground and magma is below, right? So this would be magma, right? Making our way through magma walls.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. It's kind
of
a
no point in my life have I ever questioned why you would use one over the other.
Well, if you're a scientist, I guess you have to identify what level the hot rock is on. So they had to differentiate the two. Stalactites and stalagmites, You got to give points. You got to give 5 points for the demon wall coming back in his fiery form.
This is some of the coolest lava I've seen in an MMO dungeon. I wrote here in my notes, I'm going to read it verbatim. What if Ragefire Chasm was the opposite of lame?
Ragefire Chasm is ancient, but even with their upgrade, it still didn't...
I think it got a redo?
It did. It got a big redo, and they made it more culty.
It's still not as cool as this, though. The opening of Hell's Lid is some of the coolest lava shit, magma shit I've ever seen in an MMO dungeon. It looks so cool. And also, I'm a sucker for parting anything. Parting water, parting lava, anything vaguely viscous that you can part, make a wall magically, and then put me down on the thing so that I'm standing and seeing stuff that is usually obscure that I shouldn't be seeing. Love it. And then here you make me fight things down in the parted lava. Some of it, like you said, is a return of the demon wall coming out of the lava, and then the lava recedes, and it's great. This whole part is so freaking cool. Point against Hell's Lid, though. You know how I went to bat for Temple of the Fist just a few minutes ago saying it just escalates? I think Hell's Lid de-escalates.
In set, I agree. In boss design, fight design, I disagree.
I want to give a lot of points to Kaimatachi because it's basically like a ferret god. And as someone who used to have ferrets, I love ferrets. And I love this boss design. The boss itself is okay. It has one thing that I think is really cool. And that's when it does the telegraphed lines and then it does like quick attacks in those line directions. That's really cool. The rest of the fight is, you've seen one dungeon fight, you've seen them all, kind of.
We'll both get points for long boys. I had ferrets growing up too, and I loved them. So yeah.
But I'm with you. Genbu is a real, I think, shining example of what you can do with a dungeon boss design.
It's just super duper fun. Breaking his shield in time, all of the Turtle Yoda fight stuff is great.
Yeah, it works. It adds intrigue to a boss fight. I love it. It's really well executed here. Genbu, I think, goes right up there with Ivan Curl Fist for, like, cream of the crop dungeon bosses.
Getting to that temple, while I do agree that the magma was cooler, is a neat reveal. But the Weasel Cave we have to make our way through is a downturn. Now, we've seen a lot of redos and reskins of the kind of Cyclops model. Otake Maru has to be one of the coolest versions of this, particularly when he throws down his weapons and then kind of gathers them back up with various attacks.
Mechanically, yes. Visually, I think he's an absolute goob. This is such a goofy looking boss.
You don't like the giant Oni mask kind of thing going on?
I like Oni mask, but not when it's your whole torso.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It's just a little goofy. It's like a California raisin is having an edgy streak.
It sounds like together we're down on the music. Just not a particularly memorable track.
Correct.
Vibes are up there, but a little in reverse, and low point in the middle. And then you graduate from this dungeon to the Four Lords quest, which I guess if we don't MSQ, we should include that part.
Doesn't count. Dungeon by itself. It pops up in your roulette. How do you feel?
I feel grindable.
I was kind of thinking below Temple of the Fist. You really sold me with Genbu, man. I do, and I have gotten this one since multiple times, and To me, though, the lowest thing of this is the music. And it's fine, whatever. If it pops on my roulette, cool, I'll put on a podcast. And I'll still have a good time fighting Genbu. And I'll still love the opening magma adventure. I think I'd rather run this than Siren Song C.
I think, I think that's really kind of the story we're developing over this one, is that Siren Song C is looking a little moldy. I love Ghost Ships. I loved my journey through it. Above or below Temple of the Fist?
Below.
Below. All right.
I'd rather get Temple of the Fist.
Let's do it.
I'd rather get Temple of the Fist. Yeah. These are some good dungeons, man. That's what this comes down to. I know you're ready.
Oh!
So I'm not going to ask you. I'm just going to say, it's time.
I got chills, man.
It's time to talk about the Fractal Continuum, which I know Kyle is super stoked about. And I am here to maybe be a wet blanket because you know me. What? I could take or leave elegant aesthetic.
When they get in there, they're just like rocking out.
Bro, no. Yeah, bro, I'm with you. But the second the music starts, Primals, yeah, that's what my note says right now. It just says Primals, yeah, that's my note. This track is great. Also, in the purposes of today's video, holy shit, does it stand out because everything else is very traditional arrangements, which I like a lot. I really, really like it. But, this is a nice little break from the norm in our Stormblood optional dungeons.
There's mad science Allegan, but Allegan prison break? That's badass.
Yes, it is. I'm with you. Like, so yeah, you know me, man. I'm not super into the Allegan aesthetic. It's like I've seen Tron before to me.
It's noisy. It's Crystal Tech.
I like it. I think if we go back, I'm pretty sure I liked the open to orb area of the normal version. I like it even more here because I think they just change it enough to make it fun. Love the jump pads. I also really like the hologram room where we fight Ultima Warrior.
Ultima Warrior, yeah, who summons forth powers from the various warring triad characters.
Oh, crap, that's right. I forgot about that. Oh, it's even cooler.
You don't have to know the warring triad to enjoy or understand this fight. He kind of channels at their pedestals.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's just cool. It's just cool. It's good visual storytelling that also works into actual boss mechanics. It's solid stuff. And then you're absolutely right. After we talked about we want that escalation. Oh, boy, howdy does this dungeon escalate, because the prison break section at the very end of this, where you're going through and things are just smashing out of their cells and trying to kill you. Loved it.
The first boss is bizarre, like a straight 2021 Space Odyssey monolith.
No, dude, I always wanted to fight a stick of RAM.
Yeah, it's a tombstone, but it has a really, really cute like laser system. And I remember, at least as we were making our way through Stormblood, this was one of the first times we really came in contact with one of those laser lineups, and you had to get over the wall before it went off.
I just like this dungeon. I just like it. This dungeon makes me like Alligans and everything that they're going on, because like a lot of times like they don't explain their monstrosities. They just come out and you're like, why is this a thing? And someone in the YouTube comments is like, it's a reference to another Final Fantasy, and I'm like, that's cute, but I want it to mean something. Everything looks cool here. Everything looks good. It looks cohesive. It's got really good visual storytelling. It's got like a thrill ride theme park kind of feeling as you're going through. And Ultima Beast is just monstrous looking. Yeah, I love the Behemoth model. I'm never going to get sick of the Behemoth model, and this is a very cool looking Behemoth model.
Well, we don't even have the nostalgia for this thing. Like, Behemoth model's been around a few times.
I love in Final Fantasy XIV. The frequency with which we get the burn the boss before the bad thing happens. It doesn't happen so much that I'm sick of it, but it happens just enough that when it comes up for the first time, I recognize it and go, oh shit, guys, we got to go. Pour it on. Pour everything you've got.
I have no bad notes. I love when you make your way through the alarm zone where everything's kind of flashing red. It's such a great way to freshen up what you saw already in Fractal
That's the weak
Continuum.
spot for me, because that's just, I feel like it calls attention to the kind of plain repeated walls.
Okay.
But I don't think I really like that section in the normal version either, so it's all right. It's okay. This is a really strong entry.
I am prepared to climb on top of some MSQs here.
Oh, I'm not. But okay.
No.
Not
even like surpassing Alamigo a little bit.
Xenos.
And Xenos, he's a guard. He is a barrier here.
I'm going to grab my microphone. Xenos.
I don't think the music is better than the burn, but it's so much fun.
It's a really good track. It's going to be hard to beat everything above Alamigo.
Personally, I put it above Alamigo. Right there.
Really?
Yeah.
You'd put Stick of Ram, bad Google Foo because you're just going to get the Ultimate Warrior TV show, and another behemoth above Showdown with Xenos.
I think you underestimate how much I like Space Prison Break. And this kind of music is why I've really fallen in love with Final Fantasy's music, when it surprises me with something that doesn't really fit the usual MMO sphere.
You know what I'm thinking? I think Alamigo goes above Gimlet Dark.
Oh, wow.
And maybe this goes below Gimlet Dark.
I mean, if Alamigo's becoming like our You Shall Not Pass.
I'm really thinking Burn goes into Epic and Alamigo goes above Gimlet Dark is kind of how things are, as now that I've marinated for quite some time with the Stormblood MSQ dungeons.
The Burn was held back by its weird final misty dragon boss, though.
It's still better than a bird or a jellyfish lady.
That is true. Maybe we move up Doma Castle in Epic and make like some bottom room there for Burn and Gimlet Dark and leave Alamigo as like the barrier of Banger.
All right, Burn to Epic, Alamigo above Gimlet Dark.
Here's what I'm going to move up Doma so we make a little bit of space because, you know, the Burn, it's not a perfect dungeon, but the music, the vibes, it was a strong 2 out of 3, and the rest of that other third was really good as well.
Doma Castle isn't perfect either in my mind. The last boss is goofy, but it's a fight that I like doing.
It's when Stormblood got good, right? Like, Doma Castle is the poster child of Stormblood's good.
All right.
So we doing this? Is that what we're doing?
Are we just making people more angry?
Let's make them angry, man. This is our list.
I'm into this. If you're into this, I'm into this.
Can I make more people angry? Can I do this? Can I do that?
I think I would rather get Fractal Continuum than Gimlet Dark.
All right.
That being said, this is close. Everything in Banger. Like if it comes up, I'm just like, hell yes, let's go. I'm getting excited.
Hug those up a little bit there.
I would put Temple of the Fist up in there personally.
Yeah, okay. You know,
I really like Temple of the Fist.
Take a little room around Hell's Lid.
Unlock Temple of the Fist, please. I want to get it in my roulette. Let's go to the Swallow's Compass.
To Swallow's Compass.
All right, so Swallow's Compass, which I just think of as the Monkey King dungeon. And I'm not entirely sure because I don't know the nuances well enough if it's the Chinese version or the Japanese version of the Monkey King. All I know is that the Monkey King exists in both. There are differences. I just like Dragon Ball Z, man. So all I retained is that in the Japanese version, eventually the titular character gets the name Son Goku in Japanese Monkey King lore.
I know it from MOBAs. Like, there's always a guy who clones himself, whether it's Lancer or Samuro, and they do a Monkey King skin for him. And I know that he has like an extendo pole. Like, that always comes up. Something about like his pole can go as long as he needs it to. That theme is being matched here. Also with an ability called Monkey Magic, where he summons monkeys.
I would imagine this would lean China since it's in Yancha, right? Because it's the Yancha Spirit Temple that we're going in.
Yeah, which was a really big figure. Like, this is a really big set piece that you did not get to explore during your MSQ. It was somewhere I wanted to go. That door, I wanted to see. The music, Earth, Wind, and Water gets down.
Dude, it is a great track. We talked about a lot of music that have, traditional arrangements. This is right up there with Deception for me. Like, part of the reason I like Deception so much is because I just really love Triumph, and I think it's arguably a better arrangement than the normal arrangement of Triumph. But this is just its own amazing arrangement that just kind of stands on its own.
The music and the, just dungeon design, they pushed this. I know these came out in the patches. I'm not sure if they highlighted it heavily, but the 3 doors opening to the Heart of the Dragon, that's pretty neat. But mainly when you get to this, water gauntlet, where you have to run down while fighting the trash. That's super cool. Flying on the clouds up to the final boss. That final boss, Vista. There's a lot of effort they put in here.
I don't like the underwater section that much.
No?
It's fine. I feel like by this point, I saw a lot of underwater stuff, and I think the getting knocked back part is just not as good as what we see later when we do the dungeon in Raktika, when you're trying to avoid things. I prefer the way that does it to this. Trying not to let future dungeons influence me, but
sure, yeah, those were made years later with design.
But at the time, this kind of like my very first time through, I was kind of like, it kind of annoyed me trying to beat the pushback. That's right, like we're running, and you have to get the coral behind you from when you get pushed back.
Right, the big wave is building, and then it crashes over you.
Yeah, I didn't like that as much.
I'm not sure what the first boss is. It's like a bird person, but it's like a mask person. And then we fight a giant string thing.
Wait, the water elemental looking dude? Oh god, you're right. He doesn't even look water. Yeah, he just looks like he's made out of like this old stuck together fruit by the foot.
Cool water elemental though, with the big gooey water circle in the middle that kind of spreads out and limits the space while you fight him. It's a torso fight.
We've seen way better center graphics, dude. That thing looks like you just like pasted in a water PNG. I think I like the beginning of this dungeon more than anything else in it. The creepy, dank temple looks awesome. Looks like I should be constantly dodge rolling. As mentioned, did not particularly enjoy the water tunnel. And I think the outside mountain section is just not as cool looking as Temple of the Fist's outdoor mountain section.
I would agree with that. Because it's more cartoony, and we sort of ascend to the heavens in a place we've never been before. So there's not even that enjoyment like we had in Rauger's Reach, where we're exploring something real.
There's a beautiful escalation when we fight the final boss, though, where the pretty golden skies turn to a roaring storm before our very eyes. And that I do like, and I really enjoyed that part. I think this is my least favorite dungeon today.
I would by no means be sad to see it come up.
If only we had a middle channel for that. Oh, wait, we do. It's called Grindable, and I think that's exactly where this belongs. My question is above or below Violet Tides, because for me, it's definitely above the Drowned City of Scala, because in my personal wall, everything's above the Drowned City of Scala.
I like the theme of Violet Tides more, the corrupted temple, rather than ascending the sacred temple.
Make it so.
I like feeling like I did something. The Swallow's Compass kind of makes me feel like I beat the crap out of good aligned things. I don't know why I messed them up so bad.
I don't know. I like having a brush with greatness. All right, well, let's bring it home, Kyle, by returning to one of my favorite previous optional dungeons in hard mode form, St. Mocianne's Arboretum.
Arboretum. Now covered in mud or other viscous fluids, should you choose.
Yeah, we're going to fight the poop emoji. Let's start the music. Though. How do you feel about this music?
I don't know how to feel. Is this just the normal music, but like echoed out? I think it is. I think it's the exact same song previously, but they'd like put it in a box in a closet.
This is just full on ambient. Like I would put this on to clear out a party that's gone on longer than I wanted it to go. It's so off-putting. Hey, we fight some pudding at the end, so it's even more fitting. I kind of love it. I kind of love this track. It's so weird.
Yeah, it's very different. So vibes, it's a redo of normal, but it's covered in poo now.
It is, and like it looks even more overgrown and kind of gross. Like we're fighting through the swampy brown area. And then in place of like doing a beehive where that's in the original Arboretum, you go through, it looks like almost like a drained aquarium area. Like we're fighting mollusks and giant pissed off turtles and slugs, but then you descend into what look like tanks from what would have been a catwalk, and there's still water pouring out, but there's no water standing in it anymore.
It's a cool evolution. I think I like the beehive better, but I like the mechanic while disliking at the same time. You come across monsters that are covered in mud, and the mud lowers the damage they receive, and you can't do anything about it in the early parts of the dungeon. But later on, you can activate the various water conduits around, which you have now gotten by kind of going through that second boss area, and wash them off, thereby removing the buff they have. And that's kind of cute. It might be a little Aurum Valley, like, your pickup group doesn't know how to do it, so you just end up delay mechanic.
I love the final boss fight, though. It's goofy. Like, yeah, I'm fighting the poo boss, like, insert Conquers Bad Fur Day here.
I am the great mighty poo.
But I love the great mechanic. Like, you got to look down because it's going to splash up, and if you stand on the solid piece, you're good.
The mud pie, the whole great mechanic's great, but then you have to manage the mud pie and make sure it's not getting splashed too much so it doesn't grow to such a size that it kills everybody. And it killed us, too. Like, we died to mud pie edge.
We died a lot in these dungeons.
We did.
I don't think I brought it up, but during the one that you've got a boner for, what the hell, the Fractal Continuum? I think we died on every single boss except for the final boss in that dungeon.
It is hard, after all.
I love the normal version of Arboretum. I don't think I like this more, but I still like it quite a bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I've gotten Bardam's Medal so much since we did our list last time.
Same. I never want to see it again.
No, and it's not really grown on me, but it's become more grindable while still being very much in the could be cooler category. And I think the Arboretum, with the mud mechanic, the forgettable weird music, I think it goes and could be cooler. This is a really cool idea, this greenhouse overgrown, now infested with mud, covered in mud. And we clean it out, literally. I like the second boss, being pushed around by the second boss. Really cool. Really fun to do. But thematically, it's just a reskin succubus.
Yeah, I'm with you. I am excited to see the Arboretum. I don't think I'd be like stoked to see Arboretum hard.
Yeah.
I do like looking at it, though. I think it's a thematically very well executed dungeon.
It literally could be cooler, much like Bardam's Medal. It's a cool set. It's got cool ideas, but it could be more fun. Bam.
I would, say topic could be cooler. And yeah, we need to make one more adjustment, just move Bardam's Medal left, just a little bit left, just like a little bit to the left. I am so sick of seeing this dungeon. Sorry, is this it, Kyle? Is this it?
with an ending note to insult Bardam's Medal again.
The only thing I like about you are your flags and your pan flute.
It is pretty, yeah.
It is a pretty dungeon. I'll give
Our
it that.
system is infallible, is what we're saying.
It definitely doesn't evolve when I have more time to think about things. Look at how many things ended up in Banger. Like Stormblood hard dungeons and optional dungeons are great.
Unlock them.
Yes, please do. Dude, Final Fantasy XIV really upped its dungeon game in Stormblood.
It did.
Really just came to play. What do you think? Let us know below what your favorite dungeons from the optional Stormblood swath are. Are we right? Are we wrong? I bet you have opinions. Let us know in the comments below. But hey, until next time, GG.
Ba-da-ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba-da-ba.